sports world, and welcome to The First Line, a show where we discuss all things sports, both professional and collegiate. My name is Massimo Marchiano, and I'm here today with my good friends Michael Zangroni and Taylor Snyder. How are we doing today, gentlemen?
Doing well, Mass. Coming off a very exciting, thrilling Super Bowl. Got March Madness coming up in a month. A lot of big news in the world of hockey, NBA. A lot to talk about today. Looking forward to it.
Hey, a lot of things going. We're off full swing in a lot of sports. Great Super Bowl matchup just happened this past Sunday, so a lot to talk about. Ready to get going.
Yeah, no, definitely. So let's start off with, I guess there was like a football game this weekend.
Yeah.
It's pretty important.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I didn't really watch
it was good.
It was pretty solid. I actually watched
I barely
it.
heard it over the radio. No, I'm just kidding. Super Bowl 51 happened. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't even have words to describe it. It was just an insane game. What started as what was going to be a blowout turned out to just be one of the craziest comebacks in NFL history. Taylor, as a Patriots fan, I know you're excited right now. I know it's thrilling, but you're also you're keeping a good vibe about it, man. You're not like bragging too much. You're doing good. So I want to hear your opinion about it, man. How are you feeling?
Well, it was a lot to take in with the game just because of the momentum shift towards the end there. But I think the big storyline of this game was Atlanta ultimately blowing this, in my opinion. I mean, they were up. They had a chance to win this game very late in the fourth quarter. They were in field goal range. A field goal, barring something crazy happening, that field goal most likely would have won the Super Bowl and brought in Lombardi Trophy to Atlanta, but they proceed to lose 33 yards worth of penalties. They punt the ball, the Patriots score, convert on the 2-point. All of a sudden, it's overtime, and you win the toss in overtime and you give Tom Brady the ball, you might as well throw up the white flag then and there because it's Tom Brady. And, there was a lot that I saw in this game that really all pointed towards the Falcons winning this. Brady's pick six, Blunt's fumble was huge early in the game. That was a huge momentum shifter, in my opinion. Both teams were pretty evenly matched up until that play. And I think there's two things I take away from this. The Atlanta Falcons have a lot of learning to do, being such a young team, being on such a big stage like this. And Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game of football because what he did on Sunday, coming back under that big of a circumstance, on a year like he's had with missing the first 4 games of the season was truly unbelievable. It was impressive. It was probably one of the best Super Bowls I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, it was a great Super Bowl, but the thing I really took away with is the inexperienced Atlanta Falcons, really showed, especially when it comes to those final about 10 minutes where the Patriots came back. They just blew it. The defense was playing good the whole game. They only gave us 6 points in the third quarter, played good for really the first possession in the fourth quarter as well. Then you gave Tom Brady a chance to score. Then the Patriots defense forced a turnover, and they just kept giving him too many chances. And Tom Brady's going to take advantage of those chances because it's Tom Brady. He knows what to do. He knows how to win. So they had it for the whole game. The defense was playing great. They're flying around. They're getting pressure on Tom Brady virtually every play. Every play, either Dwight Freeney, Vic Beasley, someone was in there in Tom Brady's face. He was hitting him. They're hitting him in his mouth, and it was affected the whole game. Then you saw the last 8 minutes. They couldn't get any pressure. Tom Brady was getting the ball out quick, efficiently, getting 20-yard gains, 10-yard gains, little run right here. Then he's getting to 2 points, and all of a sudden you're in overtime. You lose the toss, and if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan, you just feel helpless because you did everything to lose this game, and you can't do that in the Super Bowl and expect to beat Tom Brady.
Yeah, and like we were saying on the show last week, the thing about Tom Brady and late in games, and I think this was just kind of the thing that ultimately Atlanta couldn't handle. We talked a lot about how we got the whole team involved. If you look back at the statistics, let alone if you watched the game, you would have saw there was no receiver on that offense that stood out from the rest. We had Malcolm Mitchell, who we talked about. He got involved in the third quarter. Chris Hogan got involved all game. James White, you can't say enough about him. We were kind of joking around about this New England run game and how they all kind of play. There's not really a standout back on New England. They're all just kind of 3 very well-rounded backs, and all of them got involved very well. We saw Danny Amendola. Obviously, he was going to get involved. Martellus Bennett. It was just too much. And this Atlanta defense, we put a lot of spotlight on New England's defense. And granted, I was one of the people who said that would be the X factor. Ultimately, the X factor was Atlanta's offense and defense coming together. But I think at the end of the day, Mike just said, it's a young team. They're inexperienced. They're going to learn from this, and they're going to get back. It's not impossible that Atlanta's not back in this situation next year. It's all a growing process. It is the Super Bowl. While it does stink to lose a big game like that, it's one of those situations where you can't beat yourself up. You made it this far. And, I think, honestly, just there's a lot of forgotten plays, one being Julio Jones' catch in the fourth quarter, which is unbelievable. Don't get me wrong, Julian Edelman's catch was remarkable. A lot of Patriots fans are claiming
up for
this
the
as
Tyree.
yes, making up for the Tyree catch. But one, just plays like Julio Jones in the fourth quarter. Just I feel like are all going to be drowned out. Devontae Freeman's play is going to be drowned out. How well Matt Ryan plays is going to be drowned out because the New England Patriots just played out of their minds, and Tom Brady, like I said, just went off. And it's all going to be a learning experience. Atlanta's going to have to move on, and New England gets number 5. I mean, this is just truly still shocking to me what happened. I'm still in disbelief, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I got to say, I think the thing that really decided the game was that Atlanta, at the end of the game, could have sealed it with a simple field goal. But the problem was, I think, was entirely, the Falcons' fault. It's something that I kind of noticed as an Eagles fan whenever we versed the Giants, is that they pass the ball so many times, and they continue that into the end. Now, it's not a problem because, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, as well as Taylor Gabriel and Mohamed Sanu, are going to make a great receiving core, a great passing game. But when you have Devontae Freeman, and although, half of his yards came from a 37-yard carry, he's still a good running back, and you could still put him in situations, and you still run him, you take out, the timeouts from the Patriots, and then you win the game. But it obviously didn't work like that, and the Falcons tried to pass it. You got that sack on Matt Ryan at the end, and I got to say, what a job by the Patriots that the last 8 to 10 minutes of the game where it was just straight up them. Just no matter what, that time of possession, they had 40 minutes compared to the Falcons' 23, I believe.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, that's a huge part. And when the Patriots run 93 plays and you run 46, you just think Patriots just had the ball the whole entire game.
Yeah.
I mean, they really did. And really outside of 1.5 drives, I mean, the drive to the scoring possession in the second half for the Falcons was a good drive, but they had one other drive out of that where they actually drove down the field and scored. They had a pick six, and they got the ball off a fumble with short field position where it's virtually impossible to score when you have that kind of offense. So if you look at it, while, yes, the Atlanta Falcons put up 28 points or was holding the lead for pretty much a majority of the game, their offense really didn't do enough, in my opinion. Julio Jones only had 4 targets. I mean, if you have a Julio Jones on my team, I'm throwing him the ball a lot, especially when I know no cornerback can cover him. I'll just tell him to run a streak. I'll throw it up even in double coverage because it's Julio Jones. It's not like I'm throwing up some scrub right here. So I would like to see him get targeted more. I think that would have helped out the Falcons. But just really the time possession, total plays, they just didn't run that many plays because honestly, if they didn't get the ball in good field position or anything, they really couldn't do anything outside of 2 drives.
Yeah, I mean, it's textbook Bill Belichick, like we said last week. It's not about when Brady leaves, it's about when Belichick leaves. Because if you look at this is remarkable to me. Matt Ryan was 17 for 23. He threw 23 passes in this game. Tom Brady was 43 for 62. 62 versus 23 in a normal game is okay, that's a little bizarre to me. But in the Super Bowl, I mean, you had to think there had to come a point in the game where Bill Belichick thought the only way New England would win this is to keep the ball for as long as possible, extend their drives, score quickly, but extend those drives. And this you can talk about how Atlanta did blow this and everything like that, but ultimately you got to give a little bit of credit to Brady, obviously, but Belichick too, because this is probably in Super Bowl scenario one of the greatest coaches to ever live, and we saw it based off how much time New England basically had this ball in this game.
And that actually leads to our second topic here is whether or not this really was a Falcons really just falling apart and crumbling at the end, or if this was a Patriots comeback. Taylor, I think you make a good point. I mean, this is Tom Brady. You give him at least a quarter of football, even less, and he's going to make magic with it. I've noticed it before. Again, I'm going to do the Eagles fan thing, but I remember a couple years ago when we beat them, sorry to mention that, 35-28. It was a great game, even though we were horrible that year.
Very bad.
But I remember we were winning, but then Tom Brady still in the fourth quarter scored 2 touchdowns and almost had the chance to win the game again. So, even at halftime when the Falcons were winning 21-3, I'm like, listen, Tom Brady is known for doing stuff like this. Remember when the Broncos were beating the Patriots 24-0? Patriots came back and won that game, 31 unanswered points in the second half. It's just Tom Brady really is that player. But at the same time, I do think it was a combination of both. The Falcons crumbled, I think, offensively. They kept passing. The defense, you're going to verse Tom Brady. It's not easy, but they could have done a better job. But, yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
Well, I agree with you how it's a little bit of both, but I'm leaning towards more the Falcons blow it.
Yeah.
I mean, Julio Jones makes that credible catch. He gets both feet down, possession, everything. Insane catch, one of the better catches I've seen in witnessing football. You're on a 22-yard line. The Patriots have 3 timeouts. There's very little time left. You can legit knead the ball 3 straight times, because it doesn't matter. The Patriots can let the clock run out, then they'll have minimal time and they're down by 11, or they call 3 timeouts and they're minimal time, no timeouts, down by 11. You can take 3 straight knees, 3 straight quarterback sneaks, 3 straight anything where you don't turn the ball over and have negative plays and kick a field goal, and you are Super Bowl champions. I don't get that. I feel like this Falcons team, especially towards the end of the game, was more noticeable. They played not to lose more than to win. Because you're on the 22-yard line. You don't need to pass the ball. I mean, they're probably just saying, okay, we need to score a touchdown. We're playing Tom Brady. They want to press. They want to score. No, you just got to sit there, eat the ball, kick a field goal. You're up by 11. No matter who it is, I don't care if the Patriots have God for their quarterback and stuff or anybody. They're not going to come back from an 11-point deficit with that time because no one can beat Father Time. I mean, it's really that simple for me, where you just sit on the ball, kick a field goal, you win this game. Because no matter he can go down and get the 2-point conversion, he still has to get 11 points somehow in 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes with either 3 timeouts or no timeouts, and they're down by 11. It's virtually impossible. So I just don't get the play calling and everything. I just really think the Falcons blow because they had the game right there. All they had to do was kick a field goal and they're Super Bowl champions, and we're talking a way different game.
Yeah, I as much as I'd like to disagree with you, Mike, I can't, and it all connects back to this young and inexperienced team. Like you said, if they kick that field, and it's kind of like, if Seattle ran the ball.
Yeah.
You know,
all these ifs.
If they kick the field goal, would the Patriots have, and if Seattle had ran the ball, would the Patriots be looking at 5 rings right now, or would Tom Brady be staring at 3 rings? You know what I'm saying? And the whole thing about, this game was, I 100% stand by your belief that Atlanta blew this, because for a huge majority of this game, they were winning. They kept Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, to maybe, 2 downfield passes. I don't even think one of them was him. It was a lateral screen to Julian Edelman, who tried to hit Dion Lewis on a deep route, fell short, obviously. It was, forget who broke it up specifically, but that's besides the point. I think that this... You can give credit to Tom Brady. Don't get me wrong. Tom Brady played out of his mind. And the whole thing is, though, the reason Tom Brady was able to play out of his mind and the reason Tom Brady was able to make plays is because Atlanta was not smart with the football in this game. And they let Tom Brady have the football for more time than Tom Brady should have the football. We were just looking at the possession. The possession 100% speaks for itself. The Patriots absolutely dominated. Time of possession, attempts, rushing attempts. They dominated every offensive stat in this game, and the reason they did that is because Atlanta made the poor mistake of letting them have the ball too much. It's not so much the Patriots coming back. I mean, any team could probably come back with that much time of possession. I mean, it's probably not that hard when you got the ball for 3/4 of the game. I think this is 100% on Atlanta. I mean, they were winning this game firmly going into halftime. What happened in the second half? You can say Tom Brady happened in the second half, and true, it's Tom Brady, but don't get me wrong. I think this is 100% on the Atlanta defensive coordinating staff, and this is a young team. This is a very, very talented team, but they are very young. Atlanta will learn from this. It sucks, Atlanta. You blew this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you get doubled up in total plays and time of possession, you can't expect to win, especially in the Super Bowl, especially against the Patriots, especially against Belichick and Brady and all that. So it really doesn't make sense to me how they blew this, because they really just had it there. But if you get doubled up in those 2 big things with the opposition you're going against, it's hard for you to win, especially when you keep giving them gifts on top of that. It's not only that they just keep having the ball and they just have the ball. No, you're giving them gifts. That one drive where every 3rd down, they'll get a holding penalty.
That was it. 3 straight holding calls was the big thing.
And that's how they kept getting first downs on that drive. So they kept handing them gifts. They gave them the ball twice as much as you have it. And they just had a chance to come back, because you really blow it when you're in field goal range to win the game, and you proceed to lose 33 yards on how the heck do you lose 33 yards in the Super Bowl when all you need is a field goal? Your team cannot do that. Yeah, I mean, if you want to win a Super Bowl, I don't care how inexperienced you are. You've been playing football long enough. You cannot do that. So it was a real choke job.
And if any Falcons fans have any doubt about that, they can just watch the overtime quarter.
Yeah.
How about that first Super Bowl going to overtime? But the way that it was when you just watched that 4th quarter drive, it was just methodical.
Oh yeah,
Patriots just moved down there gracefully. Didn't look like there was a
there was no doubt in my mind. As soon as I saw Matthew Slater saying we want the ball in overtime, all right, Patriots got ring number 5. Let's see what the headlines are saying tomorrow. There was no doubt in my mind the Patriots were going to win that game as soon as they got the ball first.
And Atlanta had every bit of momentum they needed. The LeGarrette Blount fumbled the pick 6 versus Tom Brady to go up 21-0. I got to be honest, Mike, as a Patriots fan, I looked at you were watching that game, and I thought it was over right there. I don't care what you say. There's a lot of ball game left to play. We were down 21-0, and Atlanta was cooking on offense. Devontae Freeman was running over. Taylor Gabriel was getting involved. Sanu was getting involved. The whole offense was getting involved, and I was scared. I saw our defense get dominated. I saw Malcolm Butler play very poorly. I saw Logan Ryan, a very solid, underrated cornerback, in my opinion. I saw him get beat a lot. It was just, I don't know what happened. Was it Lady Gaga at halftime? It must have been.
It was something with
had
that.
to have done with the halftime performance. I think it must have thrown Atlanta off because in that second half, they just completely lost their brains. Like you said, way too much time given to the Patriots, way too many dumb plays, stupid penalties. They could have gotten off the field 3 times. I mean, it's hurt. The first 2 times it was like, okay, that's just stupid, and the third time was just ridiculous. Are you kidding me?
Oh, it's just overkill.
3 times you get New England off that field, and you're still up what? 16, 24 points at the time. You get New England off that field, you still have Matt Ryan and a red-hot Atlanta offense. I think that was the killer. I really do. I think it was them not getting off the field, and it was like, oh, crap, Tom Brady's coming to town. Tom Brady woke up. Oh, God, now we're on our toes because Tom Brady's playing well. It's tough. He's a very intimidating figure because of how good he is. But like I said, this Atlanta team just really needed to buckle up and couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it.
Alrighty. Well, I think with that, we can drop out of the Super Bowl for a second. It's been a great NFL season, but we're going to talk about the NFL more. Rest in peace. We're going to get back to that a little bit later.
Get back to it later.
But there is something very important we have to address coming up soon, and it comes up in less than a month. Ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about NCAA March Madness. 68 teams, 32 on each side, fight for the national championship. Mike, I want to hear about your thoughts. What do you think about this? Do you think Villanova can reclaim their title, or what do you think, man?
Villanova reclaiming their title, while it is very possible, I personally do not believe in Villanova. I mean, Josh Hart and all their players, they're raw, they're tough. They can score points, they can play some defense, they get down to it. But I feel like there's a team that can beat them. But I'm just looking, and these rankings, you just look every week, and it's just totally different. It's just never the same because all these upsets that are happening. And you have teams like Oregon coming up. They're now number 5 after they just trounced Arizona, and they have the big game coming up with UCLA. They got some good players. They've been playing a lot better. They've been coming up. Louisville's coming up. They had a loss to Florida State, but they regathered ever since then, and they've been putting some wins together and playing good. But Kansas and Kentucky are my 2 big disappointments. Kentucky and Kansas are really just struggling as of late. They just had a game against each other, and Kansas won and everything. But it's just tough because Iowa State just took Kansas overtime in Kansas and beat them. So there's a lot of upsets going on, and it just makes March Madness a lot more interesting because a lot of bracket busters and things that could happen that could really make things interesting and make that Cinderella story come possible. But I mean, it's a really great college basketball season because I just love seeing upsets. I just love seeing the little guys showing they can beat the big guys because it only makes March Madness that more better.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of basically building off of what you said, Mike. It's hard to really tell, and I feel like this is kind of every year with March Madness. There's so many upsets. There's so much going on. It's so complex. There's so many conferences. It's really hard to pick a winner. I've never really been able to diversify what makes a winning team from a losing team come March Madness because it's March Madness. I mean,
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen? But one team that I'm still very firmly believing in is Kansas. Listen, I know they just got upset at home versus Iowa State, and while Iowa State's not as good as they used to be this season, it's still Iowa State. It's still a conference game. We knew it was going to be physical. I think at the end of the day, Kansas walks away with the national championship this year, and it's just because Kansas just all around, I feel like, is just the most built team. Obviously, Bill Self is a great coach. He's done a lot of great things down in Kansas. I freaking love Mason. He's a great offensive player.
He's fun to watch.
Fun to watch. Easily going to make it to the NBA. I see him being very, very successful in the NBA. And I like Kansas a lot because I like him in the Big 12 tournament. I think ultimately they're going to walk away, with this. And they have a lot of very big games left, though. I look for them versus Baylor and West Virginia back-to-back weeks. I think that's going to be a lot on them. I think they're at Baylor. I think that's the game that defines their season right there.
That's gonna be a good
If
game
they
right
can
there.
beat Baylor in Baylor, I will call them national championship champions on the spot because I think that's the game that's going to ultimately put them in that number 1 seed in the Big 12 tournament and win the Big 12 tournament. West Virginia, it's a game at home. I think it's very manageable personally. And obviously, being fans of Temple University basketball, I think West Virginia's a little overrated. If Temple was able to beat them,
they're either on or they're off. Like you don't know what's going on in West Virginia.
One game I do actually look for them to maybe even get upset in is don't sleep on Oklahoma State. Now Oklahoma State's never going to be a very elite or very dangerous offensive weapon type team, but it's a game on the road. It's the final game of the season. We've seen Kansas fold late in the season in past years. Do not be shocked if they get upset there. I think that's a big one. Also, another team I do like a lot that a lot of people haven't been talking a lot about this year is Louisville. I think Louisville, when you have a coach like that and you have just unbelievable recruiting, I think they're always going to get in the mix. Connecting back to the very first thing you asked, Mass Villanova, I don't think they're going to repeat this year. I also don't think Gonzaga is going to do anything. Unfortunately, I think they'll get knocked out quite early. I'm looking at top 25 right now. Sorry, no disrespect. South Carolina is going to get knocked out second round. Yeah. I just don't. As much as I'd love to give love back home, UVA. Sorry, they're not a very good team come Elite Eight time, and I don't think anything's going to change this year. People are sleeping on Cincinnati, and as they should. I still don't think they're going to get very far, but I think at the end of the day, my two teams right now are Kansas and UCLA. I love the way UCLA plays. I love watching ball play. I love everything about UCLA basketball. I just love Pac-12 basketball. I feel like it needs to be rejuvenated. I feel like it's forgotten a lot, and so I think at the end of the day, they'll make some noise. But my national championship winner as of now would have to be Kansas. I just think all around.
And Taylor, you mentioned Cincinnati being like a sleeper, and that was actually going to lead to the question. Are there any sleepers like undercover teams? Some people thought like Gonzaga last year, but it's like this year. Any teams in mind, or do you guys think it's just going to be the main teams that we've usually seen before?
I mean, when I look at it, I want to give a little bit of love to Creighton, and I know they don't got Doug McDermott, anymore, and I know they're not like really on the radar this year, but they're 20-4 right now. They're number 23 in the nation. They're a team that's always disrespected come tournament time. They're always seeded very high, but no one even thinks to put them in their Sweet 16, their Elite Eight, let alone the Elite Eight or anything like that. I like them a lot. I think they're a very powerful team, and I really like Maryland, actually, in the ACC. They're 20-3. They've had a very good season. They're ranked number 21 in the nation. But, same old deal right now with Maryland. It's all about how they end this season. They got a lot of very big games coming up. They got a game on the road versus Wisconsin. That's going to be huge. They got a game versus Ohio State at home, big in-conference game. Game on the road at Rutgers. Shouldn't be too hard, but it's a conference game. Never know. And Iowa, too. I mean, they play Iowa at home. Iowa's always going to be a team that's going to give you some trouble. We saw what they did to Temple last year. They pushed them to the brink in a game that Temple was slightly favored to win. So it's like I like Maryland a lot. I think they're overlooked. And a team, if I had to pick my one, I guess, quote-unquote, Cinderella right now, who's in the top 25, Xavier. I'd have to give some love to. Xavier is always very solid program. 17-6 right now, not too flashy. But I feel like Xavier is more experienced compared to a lot of these teams in the 20 to 25 range. They're in the tournament every single year. They're a team like Butler that just they kind of fall under the radar and they make some noise and no one even remembers them. And honestly, as far as sleepers go, I mean, I wouldn't overlook the possibility of Florida State, maybe. I mean, they're not quite a sleeper team, but they barely get any talk. I mean, obviously, Florida State's traditionally a football school, so it's hard for them to get that kind of recognition. But I do like them a lot, and Cal Berkeley too. I like the way Cal Berkeley plays, very solid. Like I said, Pac-12 can't get enough of Pac-12 basketball. I love watching it. I have Cal Berkeley actually finishing around the 22-23 range at the end of the season, the top 25 poll.
Yeah, a team I really look at is Florida. They've been playing some really good basketball as late. They just had a really good 22-point win over Kentucky at home, and for pretty much the most part of that game, they dominated on pretty much all aspects: defense, offense, everything. They're playing at home. And they're really good, and they got some SEC games, and really. They play Kentucky. They play Kentucky in Kentucky. That's going to be a great game towards the end of the season. But I like Florida as a sleeper team because I feel like they catch on fire. They show they can beat Kentucky. I think they can stack together some wins and maybe not win a national championship, but definitely make a good run because Florida basketball can be pretty good. So I like them. Another team, I know they're at number 5 right now, but Oregon. But they got some tough Pac-12 games coming coming to close out the season. If they lose another game or two, they might drop. But I feel like no one's going to really look at Oregon no matter how high of a seed they are. So I think Oregon can really put together stuff because they can shoot, they can play fast, they can get in your head, and they beat some really good teams. So I feel like they can be good. And another team, while they are very inconsistent, you don't know what to think of them, West Virginia. I mean, they beat the number 1 and the number 2 team. Well, granted, it was at home, but they still beat them. They're a very good team. They can play good basketball. Press Virginia. They'll get in your face with that defense. So I feel like if it comes tournament time, they can stack together some big wins coming to close out the season. They can put some fire together and make a deep run in this tournament because they're capable of it. It's just, can they keep that consistency? But if they do, they're a really dangerous team because they've shown on any night they can beat anyone, but they also shown they can lose to anyone on any night as well.
Yeah, and I guess if we're still on the subject of sleeper teams, UNCW every single year in the CAA they're always kind of put like as kind of a lower seed. Not really though, because if you play well enough in the CAA, you can get a decent seed. We saw George Mason; they got a pretty decent seed back in what was that 06?
Yeah,
made it to the Final Four. And I mean, right now I look at UNCW, and a lot of people will say, "Oh, there's nothing to them. They play in the CAA." Right? True, but they're 21-4. And there's this kid that should be getting a lot more talk and should be getting a lot more looks by the NBA. I've been watching him all season. CJ Bryce averaging over 16.5 a game. He's going to be very dangerous in the tournament come tournament time. I think UNCW sweeps away the CAA. I think they do get a tournament spot. I see them dancing this year, and I like them. Every single year we kind of see that one team like Florida Gulf Coast. We saw Little Rock last year for Purdue.
There's always that one big upset.
I think UNCW is a team that's going to make it into the Elite Eight this year. That's my bold prediction.
Oh, wow,
I like them a lot. A lot of people overlook them. I watch a lot of CAA basketball. My parents both going to Mason for grad school, so I think that this is a very solid team, and I like Dayton too. Remember, Dayton was a team that
Dayton always does some tournament time, no matter what
2-3
happens.
years ago. Look for them this year. I'm serious. Dayton's a very, very solid team, and you can't forget about this team. Look for Florida Gulf Coast. They're always going to make some noise. Florida Gulf Coast is a fantastic basketball program.
Yeah, they are really
It
solid.
is a shame that they are in the conference they're in because they're continually overlooked, but I do like those 3 teams, UNCW, Florida Gulf Coast, and Dayton. I like those 3 teams. They're not quite obvious. I mean, we've seen them there before, so it's like, I think they have potential to really, mess some stuff up, ruin some people's days, if I'm, what I'm saying, Mike.
Yeah, and something to look forward to. We got a big Oregon UCLA game coming up. 2 top 10 teams. That's a big Pac-12 matchup right there. It's gonna be huge.
Definitely, it's gonna be insane. More coming up with March Madness throughout the month as we get ready for it. First matchup will take place on Tuesday, March 14th. But for the meantime, let's move on to our next segment, Minute with Mino. Super Bowl 51, Tom Brady reported his game jersey had been stolen. Houston police have since joined the NFL in search of the missing jersey. The Texas Rangers, the state's top law enforcement officers, are helping with the search of the jersey. In other news, offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan has now become the official head coach for the San Francisco 49ers. Shanahan will work with former safety John Lynch, who is now general manager, to rebuild the franchise. To replace Kyle Shanahan, the Falcons have hired offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian, former Alabama offensive coordinator. However, last year Sarkisian was the coordinator for only one game, and that was in the loss to Clemson in the national championship. And with that, let's move on to our hot topics. On Tuesday, February 7th, Boston Bruins head coach Claude Julien was fired. Taylor, I want to hear what do you think about this firing. Do you agree with it? And if you do, where do you think Claude Julien should end up, if he should end up somewhere?
I do agree with it. It did come at a bit of an awkward time, but I do respect what the Boston Bruins did. It was obviously a very high moment for the town of Boston with the Super Bowl and all. But as me and Mike were kind of saying right before the show, right now this Eastern Conference is way too close. It's way too big of a battle to be messing around. The Bruins are only 5 games out. If you look at their record, I mean, what are they right now? 26-23? Yeah, they're 26-23-6. They're 4th in the Atlantic Division. I think it wasn't. It's not. Listen, this is while it is the right move. Let's just make something very clear. This is not Claude Julien's fault. He came to coach hockey in Boston. This is the town of Boston. I mean, hockey's a pretty big deal up in the Northeast, let alone Boston. And being fourth in the Atlantic Division, if you're a coach of the Bruins, that's seen as bad. I mean, the Bruins are a constant competitor. They're constantly going to be fighting for that cup. They're always going to be a threatening team. So I just think that this was a lot of pressure to put him in this type of situation. And like I said, you can't blame him because of their record. It's more so it was the front office had to make a selfish move. They had to be a little bit selfish and say, hey, while this guy was hired this year and we did kind of bring him in to be this guy of the future, right now we need to make moves. And I respect them for what they did. But like I said, Claude Julien can't be upset because, one, he was put into a very hard situation. One, coaching in Boston, and two, the Bruins don't really have the roster the Bruins had when they won the Cup in 2011. I think that was, 2011. I mean, they have David Backes, a great player from St. Louis. I mean, he came over. He's done awesome. They still have Patrice Bergeron. Chara's old. He's getting old, man. He's getting past his prime.
He's done.
Tuukka Rask isn't who Tuukka Rask was when they did hoist the Cup that year. Brad Marchand's not really having a fantastic year. It's just a combination of they've lost a lot of pieces, and the pieces that are still there have not been playing up to their full potential. So I think Claude will find coaching somewhere else. I wish him the best, but this was a smart move. I think it was surprising, but it was the right move by the front office here.
Oh yeah, I see where you're coming from, and I agree with some things you're saying, but I have to go opposite of you and disagree with this move. I think Boston, while it's not the biggest mistake, but it wasn't a good choice by firing this guy because he was there for 10 years. He made 2 cup appearances. They're always up there in the league. They're always at least have 90 points every year he's coached, besides the year where they had a lockout for half the year, and they still got 62 points in 48 games. So he's a good coach. He's had good teams, but frankly, it's just the Bruins roster really isn't that good. I mean, if you look at it compared to Stanley Cup years, it's really not the same. And also, on top of that, you have a very old Chara. David Backes is not the same guy who he was in St. Louis. He's a little older and stuff. And Patrice Bergeron, while he's still good, he's still a little older. Things are getting up in age. They got some good rookies in there, and David Pastrnak and stuff. But I feel like their roster has some things that they can be fine tuned. I don't think Claude Julien was the problem, but like what we're talking about with that Eastern Conference, grinding. Even the worst team in the Eastern Conference, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they have a 500 record. They're within 5 points of the Flyers for that last wildcard spot. So they just need to do something. You've seen this. Even the Flyers have done this before, where they fire their head coach 3 games in a year because you can't mess around in this conference. You got to make the playoffs. So I guess they're really just trying to show something because while their roster isn't like what it was, it's still some talent. So I feel like they just want to fire him, say, all right, this team's got to do something, so we'll just fire that coach, because that really sends a big message when you fire your head coach, because that means you're not doing something right. So I really disagree with the move. That, I mean, Claude Julien, he's just a good coach, and he's had success year in and year out with Boston. And while it's not this great this year, it can also be contribute really to the roster and how it's not that good. But at the end of the day, they had to do what they got to do, but I really don't like it. But going on to teams where I think he can go, I look at a team like the St. Louis Blues, who at the last couple of games have shutouts, but they really struggled before that, and they fired their head coach Ken Hitchcock, and they really got an intern guy in right now. But I feel like Claude Julien should get another chance because he showed success in Boston, and it was very obvious that he was a good coach in Boston. So I feel like if the Blues really don't finish out this year good and don't make the playoffs, which I think they should because they're a very, very talented team, I feel like Claude Julien can see his name in some of these head coaching jobs that other teams could hire.
Oh yeah, I mean he will get. Let me read. He will get plenty of offers. This is Claude Julien. I mean, if you have a guy like Claude Julien, you're guaranteed to win. 9 in, 9 out. I mean, he's still gonna have the reputation. I don't think this kills, what he's done in the NHL as a head coach, winning a cup and all that. I think, there's no surprise that Dave Sweeney becoming GM of the Bruins has kind of disappointed fans a little bit. I remember when he came in that first year, he made a lot of radical, shall I say, moves, and this is another one. And I mean, you look at what Dave Sweeney's done with the Bruins, and you have to respect. He did this, like you said, Mike, he did this at a very awkward time. Fans were like, why did you do this after the Super Bowl? Because he's trying to make a statement right now. This is a good hockey team. Historically, they are one of the best teams in NHL history, and they want to win games. And then their last 9 games, while they are still in this playoff race, they haven't been winning games, and this is the NHL. I mean, you can win 9 straight games, but if you lose your next 15, you're done. You're fired. Yeah. This is hockey, man. Teams are competing. It's all about points. Any team can win 9 in, 9 out. You can have a team like the Washington Capitals best team in hockey right now. You can have them a month ago be down in the 5th, 4th spot, losing to a team like Carolina on a Tuesday night, 5-0,
Yeah.
and then they can just win 11 out of their 13 next games. The NHL is a very weird and exciting professional sports league, and Lord knows what's going to happen the rest of the season. And Dave Sweeney made the move he had to make. He saw a trend. He said, we need to get points. We need to get in the playoff race. He's not connecting well. I think this was the right move, but, I mean, it's going to affect their chemistry a little bit. However, I do think the Bruins are better off with this move. Right now, like I said earlier, they're getting old. So they need a coach that's going to bring in young talent, who's going to produce young talent, who's going to build young talent. And I don't know if Claude Julien quite has that IQ yet to be dealing with stuff like that. Like we said, he did bring in David Pastrnak. Sorry, I said that wrong. The young 20-year-old, the rookie. He's awesome. But, I mean, other than that, what else has he done with building this team? And right now, this is a team that needs to continue to build. They need a new coach. It came at the right time. I agree with this move.
And while Claude Julien will look for a new coaching job, Jimmy Garoppolo may look for a new quarterback job this summer. We hear the Patriots talking about potentially giving Tom Brady a 5-year contract. We'll talk about that another time. But for now, let's focus on the backup, Jimmy Garoppolo, who played for Tom Brady this year and did a pretty good job until an injury came in, and then Jacoby Brissett took over, and then he did a good job. So Jimmy Garoppolo, he definitely has a lot of poise. I feel like he's definitely starting material. At least, give him a shot. Why not? Worst case scenario, he's a pretty good backup. Teams like the Browns, Broncos, 49ers are looking at him. Taylor, you and I agreed actually earlier that the 49ers might be the best situation for Jimmy Garoppolo. Tell me, why do you think that is?
I think this is a great situation for the 49ers and Garoppolo. I think they accent, each other in such a way right now because I think if you're the 49ers or the Browns, the last thing you need, and I mean the last thing you need to be doing is getting a rookie quarterback and just relying on that guy to be your future. Right now, the 49ers historically are one of the greatest franchises in NFL history, and they need to start playing like it. Colin Kaepernick's sure as heck not the answer. Blaine Gabbert's definitely not the answer. This team has a lot of holes. Carlos Hyde's probably their best offensive player right now. I think the Patriots could end up getting a fortune in this process. I can't name you names specifically because there's so much to deal with cap space and who's available and who's not right now. But I think if the Patriots traded him to the 49ers, they could benefit. Maybe get a good defensive player too, maybe someone with experience. And right now, I mean, obviously I'm a little biased. I'm a Patriots fan. I look at Jimmy Garoppolo and I see a future NFL quarterback who's going to start. And I'm not going to jump to assumptions and say he's going to win you Super Bowl. I can't make any guarantees to the Bay Area or anything like that. But I will say this. I think he's a great fit. He's experienced. He looks like an NFL quarterback, the way he throws the ball, the way his mechanics are set up. And I think he'll fit in perfectly with Kyle Shanahan being a new coach right now in San Francisco. I don't think Cleveland's really the best fit for him right now. And I think it all works out for the 49ers because they get Garoppolo and they have to avoid taking the huge gamble on Deshaun Watson. I'm still very confused as to why people think Deshaun Watson will fit well in San Francisco. I actually think that the polar opposite of that. I really don't think San Francisco needs a young quarterback right now. So I think perfectly San Francisco and him go together well.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that because, like you said, Kyle Shanahan's going to be there. And I think John Lynch is going to be a pretty good general manager too. I think that's a pretty good 1-2 punch right there. And the reason why I think Jimmy Garoppolo is better there is because Blaine Gabbert is obviously not going to be better there. And you guys already know my feelings for Colin Kaepernick. I'm not going to release the stress on him today. So, Kaepernick, you're free for today, but just know that any other situation, I'll destroy you. But for the time being, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is the best option for the 49ers. I know you got to build around more than just the quarterback, but I think you have a good running back in Carlos Hyde, like I mentioned before. You give Jimmy Garoppolo that, and then maybe you draft a receiver, build around the offense maybe, and then, you have DeForest Buckner on the defensive line who he started off well and then kind of slowed down near the end of the season. But I think if you just build around that defensive line a little bit more, start to get a little bit of a pass rush going, start to get the offense moving a little bit, I think we could see a 49ers team recover pretty soon. And that's why I think Jimmy Garoppolo is the best fit there.
I guess I'm the odd man out here because I'm looking back at the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, do we love the Browns in this show, talking about them every day. But no, I think Jimmy Garoppolo could be a good fit for the Browns because just like the 49ers, they do not need a rookie quarterback because, one, they can't develop a rookie quarterback, let alone a veteran quarterback most of the time. So I feel like they need to go with Jimmy Garoppolo because in a limited amount of time he played with New England during Tom Brady's suspension, he did really good. Even the game he got hurt, he played one half, had 200 and some yards, and 3 touchdowns. So he is a very good quarterback. He reminds me a lot of Matt Ryan, who we just saw this past Sunday. He's a good pocket presence. He'll get the ball out of his hands, won't make too many mistakes. He's smart. He knows what to do with the ball, and he gets a playbook. And I feel like he can be a really good quarterback. And I feel like if the Browns, maybe send like 2 third-rounders and maybe just one of their defensive guys, I feel like they can get Jimmy Garoppolo on their offense, and they can use those 2 first-round picks for defense, that second-round pick for defense, and even more defense because that defense is atrocious. And get draft some offensive pieces. Get Terrell Pryor back if you get Jimmy Garoppolo. Do a little work in free agency because I know they got a lot of money because they ain't paying no one big because they don't have anybody worthy of money on their team. So I know they have a lot of money to do some things. So I feel like if they can package together some picks, maybe a player or 2, and get Jimmy Garoppolo, I feel like that would be a good move.
Yeah,
because Hugh Jackson's a good quarterback guy, and I feel like Hugh Jackson's a good coach, and he showed a lot of emotion, how he really cares about this team, no matter how bad they are. I feel like Jimmy Garoppolo, they can get a little bit better and have a little something to build around rather than a uncertain Mitch Trubisky or really even uncertain Deshaun Watson because you don't know what he's going to do in the NFL.
Yeah, I think the best way the Browns can sell Garoppolo is by attracting him with the players. And we're going to go back to something we talked about. Was that 2 weeks ago, the trade deadline?
Yeah.
The Browns have a lot of cap space right now, and I know the season just ended. Obviously, they're not going to be making moves right at this moment. But they have a chance to get, like you were just saying, a good defensive player like Melvin Ingram from San Diego or Dante Hightower from New England or Jefferson from the Cardinals at a free safety position. And, the Browns, you look at the Browns and you're like, all right, well, they won 1 game last year. Well, what's it going to be anything different next year? No, I'm going to let you know right now, nothing's going to change. They're still probably not going to make the playoffs next year, but they have a chance to build over time with the cap space they have and with the young team they have. And I think that's a great selling point for Jimmy Garoppolo. He has a good opportunity. I mean, if you look at the San Francisco receiving core, I'm going to put this very as lightly as possible. It's not good. It's not good at all.
At all.
So it's like you can bring Jimmy Garoppolo in, and he has been in the system New England. Traditionally, New England has been able to work with what they have and produce. So I'm sure he's gotten a little bit of that talk from Bill Belichick on how to make do with what he has. So I'm sure he can make something out of himself in San Francisco. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying maybe the opportunity could possibly be in Cleveland if Cleveland would start making moves defensively. I think, like we were just saying, rookie quarterback is not something they should be worrying about. They should be worrying about Myles Garrett, first overall from Texas A&M.
100%.
All 100%. I don't want to. I swear to God, if they draft Deshaun Watson first overall, any quarterback, I just will be.
That's a huge mistake.
Astounded with the front office in Cleveland. I mean, right now they should be looking at veteran guys. They should be looking at guys beyond the quarterback position at the rookie position. I don't want to even hear a quarterback being mentioned. But ultimately, I do still think he fits better in San Francisco. It's just a better opportunity for him, and I think he'll fit in with a system that's traditionally built off veteran players. But I'm not going to discredit you, Mike. I mean, Cleveland makes a few moves here. It's not impossible that Cleveland's just as much in this contention to get him as San Francisco.
Alrighty. And speaking about Jimmy Garoppolo's future, let's talk about another young player's future. Talk about DeMarcus Cousins for the Sacramento Kings. Sacramento Kings recently just stated that they wanted to build around DeMarcus Cousins' scheme for the long term, but next thing you know, technical foul, and here he is suspended for another game. And it's, let's be honest, is this the player that you guys really want to build around, or is this a player that, like, hey, if he keeps acting like this, time to start looking for another center, place this guy?
I mean, if I were the Kings, I would definitely try to build around him, but I wouldn't because he doesn't belong in Sacramento because that is such a bad spot for him right now. That team is not good. The front office is very questionable. They can't get their head coach right. And, in all due respect, DeMarcus Cousins is kind of a diva. He is very good, but I feel like he needs to be in another city because Sacramento can't cut it out. I feel like he needs to be in another city where he can just relax. He can still be the man of the team because he's that good, in my opinion. He's, if not the best, top 3 center in the NBA currently, and he can do a lot of damage. I feel like a team like the Bulls would make a really good fit. Possibly throwing together some things together for a trade. Maybe throwing a Jimmy Butler in there. You can definitely get DeMarcus Cousins. I feel like if you pair up with DeMarcus Cousins with maybe a Dwayne Wade or something, you can get his head straightened out. You can just be like, okay, stop doing all this. Yeah, you get technical fouls. That's whatever. It's a part of the game. But get your head on straight because you're a talent and you can really do some damage. So his future in Sacramento, yes, while they want to build around him, it makes sense. I would want to build around DeMarcus Cousins too because he is very good. But I just don't feel like Sacramento's the place for him personally because he obviously doesn't like it there. There's a lot of controversy there all the time. Either him flipping off reporters, or him getting a fight with a head coach, him getting a fight with a player, or him getting technical foul game in and game out and getting suspended and stuff. It's just you can't really rely on him because of all these things are going on. And I feel like that's a real attribute to Sacramento because it isn't working out there. Just the team's not good and all that. And if I'm Shaquille O'Neal sitting here, a little part owner, I'm like, you got to sit down with the man and get his head straight and tell him to get going. I know you probably did that already, but I feel like Shaq's another big part of this. If you want to build around DeMarcus Cousins, he has to straighten his head out because DeMarcus Cousins can be dominant, great, and unguardable. He is an amazing player to watch. I mean, I know as the Kings, we don't get a lot of chance to watch some West Coast teams like that, but if I get a chance to see some Marcus Cousins highlight, I'm ready to watch it because he's a great player. But I just feel like Sacramento is just not the place for him because it obviously just you can't get anything right with Sacramento and DeMarcus Cousins right now.
Yeah, and then this is a very common mistake. We've seen this before in the NBA. You bring in a player like DeMarcus Cousins and you put him in there to be the superstar. You put him in there to be your LeBron, the guy that everyone looks up to, the guy that everyone respects and listens. And truthfully, that none of that. All three of those things have not happened. Like you said, he has a lot of issues with the front office. It's apparent he's got a lot of issues with the media. He doesn't seem to have great chemistry with the players. He doesn't like playing in Sacramento. I don't care what you say. The guy does not want to play in Sacramento. He wants to get out of there. And listen, I hate to just put them on blast, but the Sacramento Kings are the most poorly run franchise in the NBA right now. I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea what they're thinking. It's like, all right, yeah, true. We're going to bring in DeMarcus Cousins, and DeMarcus Cousins is going to be this big superstar. Yeah, but who's going to surround him? You can bring in a big superstar all you want, but at the end of the day, if you got no one else the whole thing of bringing in the superstar, it defeats the purpose if you don't have guys, young talent, good guys to build around him and to build up from the ground with him. I look at the Sacramento Kings team right now and you say, all right, DeMarcus Cousins is our superstar. Who's going to help DeMarcus Cousins continue to be DeMarcus Cousins? Who's going to motivate him? Who's going to feed him the ball? Who's going to create opportunities? It's not going to be Ty Lawson. It's not going to be Matt Barnes. Sure as heck not going to be Anthony Tolliver. I mean, it's just, I look at this team, it's very poorly run. Rudy Gay fallen off. I hate to say it, but he's fallen off.
That injury really killed him.
Injury destroyed his career. I think, like you said, Mike, and I'd like to think of another team, but I agree 100% with you. Chicago is perfect for him. I think he fits in quite well in Chicago. Is Jimmy Butler still in the discussion to get traded? I can't tell anymore.
I mean, if he is, why not throw him to Sacramento? Get DeMarcus Cousins. You get your big man. Yeah, you're losing Jimmy Butler, but that everybody on the Bulls roster doesn't like the good players on the Bulls because that's just not falling. Like we can get into to another show, but like we know that's bad in Chicago, so they can definitely do some mixing up.
I mean, and heck, the Kings could throw away DeMarcus Cousins and maybe one more solid bench player, and we could see Rondo come right back to Sacramento.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, this is very common. And speaking of Rondo, when Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and that entire quote unquote era in Boston left, it was Rajon Rondo. And it was, this is going to be the guy now. This is going to be our Pierce, and we're going to build off him. It obviously didn't work. They admitted it. They gave up, and so they brought in Isaiah Thomas. They brought in Avery Bradley. They brought in Marcus Smart, Crowder, etc. And they built up. And I think that is what the Sacramento Kings need to do right now. They need to mature up. They need to make a very mature decision right now. Get rid of DeMarcus Cousins. Heck, maybe even get rid of Rudy Gay if someone will take him. And they just need to start drafting young guys, keep the rest of the guys on the team and build up. And I think they need a new coach. I think ultimately, like, you can have an amazing team all you want, but if you're not having a guy that the players want to play for and a guy that's going to prepare you and put you in a situation to win week in, week out, then nothing's going to get done. I don't care if you have DeMarcus Cousins. So I think DeMarcus Cousins fits in well in Chicago or pretty much
anywhere but Sacramento.
Anywhere but Sacramento. Any team that's in the top 5 right now in the Western Conference, I think he fits in fine.
Oh,
and well, DeMarcus Cousins' future may be looking downhill. At least it won't be as bad as Roger Goodell. So our first topic on the downside, Roger Goodell's ego, his dignity, his
everything about him,
his face, eyes, ears,
voice,
soul. Everything is probably, has been drained away from him and is now captured in a bottle in Tom Brady's mansion or whatever. After suspending Tom Brady for 4 games after the whole Deflategate controversy, Roger Goodell had to ultimately hand Tom Brady the Vince Lombardi Trophy. Michael, what are you thinking? What do you think about Roger Goodell right now? What do you think he had to feel about that entire moment, man?
Oh man, if I'm a Patriots fan right now, I'm just loving this whole everybody hates Roger Goodell thing, and you see even at the Patriots parade, everybody hates Roger Goodell. Even non-Patriots fans, everybody hates Roger Goodell. He is not a likable figure. People boo him during the NFL draft. He has not been liked. He makes bad decisions. He is an annoying voice, and he does stupid things that really doesn't help the NFL. That's why ratings are down and all that. We can get into all that because Roger Goodell is that bad. But it's a great ending how the Patriots came back just so they can get that trophy from Roger Goodell. Then you have Robert Kraft after he gets a trophy saying this is the sweetest one because of everything that happened over 2 years, clearly referencing Roger Goodell because I don't know what else he could be referencing. So even everybody in the Patriots organization hates it, and even Matt Patricia when he was getting off the plane going back home to Boston, he had a Roger Goodell shirt on and it had a clown nose over him. So they all hate Roger Goodell. It's great. I actually love seeing it because I hate Roger Goodell too. So he really is going on the downside. And I mean, I know it's probably not going to happen, but I want a new commissioner because I just don't like Roger Goodell. I just don't like the things he's doing, how he's running everything. I mean, it's just not good. Like nothing has happened with Roger Goodell good over the past how many years I can think of. I can't remember anything positive he has done or anything people have said. Oh, good thing Roger Goodell's here because he did that. I haven't seen it because it's bad.
Yeah, no, Roger Goodell. It definitely was coming to him, especially the way the Patriots were playing this season, and it's just hilarious. Honestly, it was just funny. I don't know, Taylor. How do you feel about that?
I gotta ask you guys a serious question right now. When was the last time you heard someone say, "Oh wow, did you see that move Roger Goodell made? Dude, that was awesome." Never. You can say you're a Patriots fan. I'm just gonna say that. No, I'm a fan of the National Football League. I'm a fan of football. Roger Goodell is a fraud. Ever since he has come into this league, he's done nothing but mess things up. He's changed the rule book. He's changed the sponsorships. We got all these issues every single year with domestic violence, with DUIs, with all this stuff. A lot of people have not been very happy about the way he's handled a lot of those situations, giving, the one being Josh Gordon getting suspended for a year because of the marijuana possession and Ray Rice only getting a couple games. Same with Greg Hardy for domestic violence. Many feel as if that having him in the league has made the players actually not want to be a part of it. A lot of the players become selfish now. They don't even want to associate themselves with Roger Goodell, and I think it's just textbook. I think it's like you had to think someone was writing this somewhere in like a bookstore or something like that, because Tom Brady getting that trophy at the end, Goodell handing it to Belichick, the references, Kraft, Patricia with the clown shirt. I mean, it's all just such a fairy tale to me. And from this day on, I just really don't see anyone ever respecting his authority. He can do whatever he wants, but when you have a guy that's making moves and no one's respecting their authority, that's worse than a guy that's making terrible moves and everyone expecting their authority. You know what I mean? If no one's respecting your authority, it doesn't matter what moves you make. I think he's corrupted this league. I think they should bring back the rules that were set in stone before he became commissioner. And I don't like the guy. I don't like his attitude that he brings. I don't like what he's doing with these players. I don't like the punishments he's enforcing, and I think it's time for him to go. I think this is just nailing the coffin right here.
Yeah, I want to see players celebrate when they score touchdowns. I miss that. I miss Jimmy Graham dunking on the goalpost and stuff like that. I mean, I just don't get some of these rules. This is really the no fun league. A lot of people are saying it's really the no fun league. I want to see players celebrate and everything.
Exactly. I remember the worst was Cam Newton, handing a football to a kid, and you get fined for that.
Oh,
these are kids we're supposed to inspire, aren't we? And Cam Newton is like the one NFL player who, amongst a bunch of NFL players, are, like you said, Taylor, selfish nowadays. It's honestly like, why even do that to a player like Cam Newton, who, if anyone, is one of the better, more moral players in the league?
Oh, he's making a kid's like not life, but good part of his life, saying, "I just got a football at a Carolina Panthers game." Like that's awesome thing to say from Cam Newton, Mike Tolbert, whoever scores a touchdown is a great thing. And to find him X amount of money, I think it was around $8,000 every time he hands a ball over. It's stupid. He's just giving him a football. It costs what? $30 to make a football, I guarantee. Like, you can produce some hand over fist. For every one football you give away, I guarantee you can make 100 before that game ends.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Stuff like that and pregame cleats. Apparently there's a pregame cleat protocol. I did not. Sorry, Odell.
Oh yeah, uniform,
I feel
all this,
for Odell Beckham Jr. right now because his cleat game is just unreal.
It's fresh.
We could go off about that in another show, but I mean, just the way dress code, like you're not allowed to wear certain cleats.
Let the players have fun, man.
I really do truthfully feel bad for not giving a specific name right now, but I do remember about 2 years ago, an NFL wide receiver pregame, it may have been Antonio Brown actually, wore cleats that basically, no, it was Odell Beckham Jr., I believe, promoted cleats for autism awareness and then got fined a couple $1,000s because he didn't wear proper NFL instructed or approved cleats pregame.
They're cleats, bro. They're cleats, bro.
Like what? I want Roger Goodell. I want him to come to our show, and Roger, if you're ever listening, I want you to come to our show, and I want you to give me a rule book. I want to see all these new rules, and I want to know a justification for why all of these are getting put in place. Because I'm sick and tired of Roger Goodell in this league right now. Sorry, I was tapping. I get passionate about Roger Goodell, man. I'm sorry.
You're good, man. Anyway, Roger Goodell still had to go through probably one of the worst feelings he'll ever go through was giving the Super Bowl MVP the Lombardi Trophy. But the MVP, Tom Brady, let's talk about the upside here. I want to talk about James White, who, honestly, if I can be honest with you guys, I feel like James White should have been MVP. Now, let me not take nothing away from Brady here. 466 yards, 2 touchdowns, with the pick 6, which is the main reason why I'm really going with James White here. But Tom Brady did have a great game, but I think James White was really a big part of it. 14 catches for 110 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. He had 6 carries for 29. That's almost about 5 yards a carry. He obviously played better than LeGarrette Blount, who gave up the potentially game-changing fumble that could have given the Patriots the loss. And that's why I think James White is the MVP in this one. Definitely, though, you can make a strong case for Brady, who at this point already cements himself as the best quarterback of all time with this win. Argument. But I think for this particular occasion, I think James White just really came up. And how he talked about it last week, the Patriots are going to have that player that's not really mentioned that much come out of nowhere and then make it big. And I thought that night it was James White. Well, I thought everyone did good. Malcolm Mitchell had a pretty good fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. James White, though, I feel like he was on fire all game. And, you can talk about how Julian Edelman had more catches than Julio, but the same amount of yards. And then we could also talk about Martellus Bennett have some clutch catches. Although he almost got that game-winning touchdown. We remember that. We saw that.
You do remember that.
That was so close. But I think James White, I think he deserved to be the MVP because I thought he had a great game, and next year I think he could be the starting running back for the New England Patriots.
I agree with your MVP consideration for James White. Fully credited, too. Man had 139 all-purpose yards and 3 touchdowns. That's balling out right there, and a Super Bowl record for receptions in a game. Homeboy balled out, and he's a third string running back for the Patriots. He had 14 catches. No linebacker could have covered James White or safety or whoever they put on him because he was getting free, and Tom Brady was just like, here, I'll just give you the ball. He had a receiving touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns, including a game-winning touchdown. So, that game-winning touchdown alone is enough for me to give James White MVP, along with those 2 other touchdowns and 139 all-purpose yards, but he wouldn't have done that in overtime if Deion Lewis didn't get hurt on that fake knee attempt when they tried to do that little reverse thing at the end of the game. So I think that was kind of ironic. But hey, James White balled out. He's even balling out last year. He's the reason I won my fantasy championship last year. So shout out James White. He's my boy. But no, James White's a baller. He's fast. Third seed in Wisconsin. He's young. He can do some things in the run game. Like you said, he only has 6 attempts, but 29 yards, 2 touchdowns and stuff. So he can do a little damage. He's a little guy, but he gets things done. He's still in the 200-pound range. So he's a nice physical back. I like him. Yeah,
game-winning touchdown.
He had 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl from Tom Brady, so from a Tom Brady-led team, so he knows how to get it done. And it's great to see a little third-string running back balling out like that because he did really good and it was fun to see and really a big part of the Patriots game Sunday.
Yeah, we were talking a lot about who's going to be that one guy, that weapon that was going to come out, and I actually feel like I almost mentioned it was going to be a receiving running back that was going to do damage. If you look at James White's stats, in the regular season, he had 0 rushing touchdowns. In the postseason, he had 2, and both of them were in the biggest game of his life, the Super Bowl. On the season, 5 receiving touchdowns just in the Super Bowl alone. Didn't do anything up until the Super Bowl. Had 2 receiving touchdowns. The man scored 3 touchdowns, played out of his mind, scored the game-winning touchdown to give Tom Brady his 5th ring. And yes, the credit has to go to Tom Brady. He did leave the second half comeback. As much as I'd like to say James White's the MVP, I do have to give that to Tom Brady respectively just because of what he did in the second half. They gave him opportunities, and Tom Brady continued to prove why he is the greatest of all time. But James White is just, he's just kind of that weapon that no one ever really talked about. Like you said, third-string running back. And I gave a lot of praise to Blount and Lewis in this game, admittedly, and I left James White out of the conversation when talking about who was going to get involved in this game. And he fully proved himself. He fully cemented the stone that if a guy like Deion Lewis or LeGarrette Blount were to leave in the next 2 or 3 years, he would be fine filling in that role. Brady loves him, and I mean, he's a versatile guy. Like you said, he's a guy from Wisconsin. Wisconsin running backs are versatile. We've seen Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon's not only good because he can give you 50 yards up the middle. He's good because Phillip Rivers loves him on those screens.
Oh,
He
yeah,
loves
huge
him on
breakout
those
year
short-
this year.
It's a Wisconsin running back, and I think James White's got a great future, especially after this game in the NFL, and it's comedical to me, man. And the other, when you talk about who was going to score the game-winning touchdown for Atlanta, we'd probably say a guy like Taylor Gabriel or Julio Jones. But if it's the Patriots, it's like, well, who knows who's going to catch the game-winning touchdown? It's Tom Brady. It could be freaking. I don't know. It could be James Devlin, the fullback. You don't know, man.
Nate Solder.
You don't know, man.
Yeah. They do love putting that extra tackle in there, but
Yeah,
it is
not?
great. You can never guess what the Patriots are going to do, but James White, you've seen him, he's come up big before at the end of last year. He did some things in the regular season, but he balled out to the Super Bowl. Nothing you can say about it. And really big MVP consideration. And I feel like he'll be on the Patriots for a while. So I don't think Bill Belichick will go bro.
I'm actually getting breaking news right now that the Eagles have just cut Leotis McKelvin with the salary cap. But you know what? I think we're actually running out of time, gentlemen. We have wrapped everything up.
Thank God for that, though.
Thank God. We're going to get on that next show, though. Don't forget, we're going to get on that next show. But for the meantime, thank you for joining us here on The First Line. My name is Masso Marciano, and here with my good friends Mike Zangroni and Taylor Snyder, we wish you guys a very good night. Any closing thoughts, you guys?
No, Super Bowl was great. That was greatest Super Bowl I witnessed, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That definitely up there. So, that was fun to watch. March Madness coming around, everything's folding in shape. We're going to have a great year and hopefully keep things rolling.
Yeah, rest in peace to football, but we got to kind of look at the upsides here. We have NHL playoffs coming up, NBA playoffs, and for those who are still sticking with me and Mike here on the baseball train, man, we got baseball coming up.
And pitchers and catchers report shortly.
Very shortly. My Red Sox had a very huge offseason. I know a lot of other teams are making some big moves. People are talking about teams like the Mets maybe getting back in the picture this year. There's a lot to talk about. I'm excited for what's to go. Football will miss you, but First Line's not going anywhere and sports aren't going anywhere.
So let's get it.
Alrighty, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at TFL Sports Talk. Please join us again next time. Thank you very much.